So today I'll be giving you a short presentation which shows you all the different topics that you have learned in your Primary 2 Math syllabus. Now this presentation will act as a revision as well as a way for me to give you some tips as well as show you which important things you should take note for each topic so that the next time you do anything related to math, you can think of the topic and know what you should take note of. So let's get started. The first topic that we'll be talking about is numbers. Now there are 4 things you need to know about numbers, which is place values, representations, number numerals, which is writing them in the number formats as well as spelling them out in words, as well as patterns. Now if you don't understand what all these mean, don't worry, I'll go through them in the next slide and hopefully it will jog your memory on what you know. Now starting off with place values, representations, as well as numerals, I have given you 3 different numbers, which is shown on the screen right now, 785, 891, as well as 42. Now, place values refer to the position of each digit, and I have flashed what place values mean in the table on the right. So as you can see, there are 3 columns that I have written out, which is in the hundreds place, tens place, as well as ones place. Now, I have allocated the different digits in the different columns, and now these show you their place values. Representation actually means how much is each digit. So taking 785 for example, the 7 has a value of 700 and is in the hundreds place. The 8 has a value of 80 and is in the tens place. The 5 has a value of 5 and is in the ones place. You can try this out with the other 2 numbers, but this is what place values and representations mean. Next will be on numerals. Now numerals is actually to be able to write out the numbers that you are given in word form. Now as mentioned before, 785, this is how you would write it out in words. Would you like to try the other 2 numbers? You can pause the video and try how to spell them out. And I will flash you the answers in a bit so you can check them. So 891 is spelled out as such, and 42 is spelled out as such. Now I would like to bring your attention to 42 as well as the other 2 numbers. Now you can see that there is a hyphen in between the 2 words for 42 as well as the last 2 words for the other numbers. Now this is something that many students usually leave out because they think it is not important. However, this is very important, so you should focus on spelling them out as such. Next, we will touch on patterns. Now there are 2 different types of patterns under the number series. There are shape patterns as well as number patterns. Now for shape patterns, it is actually a repetition of series, whether they show you different objects or images that you have to identify one cycle and guess the next one in position. So looking at the one we have on the left, you can see that there are a series of shapes. Now, where do you think the one cycle stops at? The one cycle stops actually when the first image is repeated yet again. So that shows you the start of the next cycle, and the one before it is considered as one cycle. So you can see that there is a cone, a cube, a sphere, another cube, and then lastly, a cone. Now you can see that a cone is the first image given in the pattern. So you know that that is the start of a new cycle, and the ones before is the first cycle as shown. So what do you think the next one is? The next one is actually a cube. Now how do you do such patterns? I would suggest that you label each one. So the cone would be number 1, the cube would be number 2, the sphere is number 3, the other cube would be number 4, and the cone would return back to number 1. And from this, it will be very easy for you to do shape patterns. The next pattern is a number pattern. Now you have to identify a common difference. Now look at the pattern below that I have given. Can you spot the common difference? The common difference is that it increases each time by 10. So in the blanks, it would give you an answer of 42 and 62. The next one that we have is operations. Now there are 4 different operations that you have to take note at this level, which is addition, subtraction, multiplication, as well as division. I am fairly certain that you know how to do addition and subtraction, so I will focus on differentiating multiplication and division, just for your brain to refresh itself. Now the first one that I'll be touching on is multiplication. Now multiplication is actually finding the total of everything. Now usually in multiplication, you have groups as well as how much is in one group, and you will need to find the total number. So on the screen, I have shown you a diagram where there are 3 groups, and in one group, there are 2 donuts. So the equation that you should be thinking of is 2 times 3, and that will give you 6. There is 2 in each group, 3 groups in total. Now multiplication is also the same as 2 plus 2 plus 2, and that will give you a total of 6. Multiplication is finding the total. Now do take note that under multiplication, you have to memorize your 2, 3, 4, 5, and 10 times table. For division, division is the opposite of multiplication. Division is splitting a bigger sum into small groups. However, multiplication is to find the total. Since division is splitting a bigger sum into small groups, usually you would have to find the total number first, and you can see that there is a total of 8 stars. Now the 8 stars are to be split into 4 different groups. So how many stars would be in one group? You can pause the video while you think of the answer, while I tell you the answer soon. Now the answer is 2. Next we will touch on fractions. Now under fractions, you'd have to know how to compare the fractions, knowing which one is greater than or smaller than, as well as the subtraction and addition of fractions. Now an important thing to take note for the subtraction and addition of fractions is that you have to make sure that the denominators are the same in order for you to do any form of operations for them. I will elaborate more on comparing fractions. So let's take for instance this fraction, which is 2 out of 7 and 3 out of 7. As you can see, both of the fractions have the same denominator, which is the bottom number. Now look at the shaded or colored pieces in the pie or in the circle that you can see. Which one has a bigger area covered? Which one has more pieces being shaded? That's right, it's the bottom one. It is 3 out of 7. So when the denominators, which is the bottom number, are the same, look at the top number, which is the numerators. The bigger the number for the numerators, the bigger the area, the bigger the piece of the fraction. So 3 out of 7 is bigger than 2 out of 7. Now let's look at another form. This one shows a diagram of 1 out of 6, and this one shows 1 out of 2. Can you see which colored piece is bigger? The 1 out of 2 piece is colored bigger, while the 1 out of 6 one is significantly smaller. Now look at their numerators, their top numbers. Are they the same? Yep, they are the same. So how do I know which fraction is bigger than the other one? Look at the denominators, their bottom numbers, and see that the smaller the denominator, the bigger the piece. Now this is only on the condition that the numerators are the same. Now we move on to money. And in order to do money, you have to know how to count money, as well as convert the dollars into cents, vice versa. Now let's compare money. Which image shows a greater sum of money? Is it image A or image B? You can pause the video and give me your answer while I show you the next one. Now the answer is image B. Image A shows only $20 and image B shows $62. So this is just an example of a question that you should know how to do, and you should be able to count money as well as compare which one is more or which one is less. Now for converting money, you must be able to show and convert cents to dollar forms with the right decimal placing. Now let's try the first one. How do you represent 70 cents in dollars? This is how you should represent it. The dollar sign comes first, and then a 0, the decimal place, and then 70 cents. Do take note that when you use the dollar sign, you don't also use the cent sign. And if there is no dollars, you should write it as 0. Now, how much is $1? $1 is actually 100 cents. So you have to keep that in mind. Let's take for instance 350 cents. How many dollars and cents are this? Remember I told you that 100 cents is $1. So how much would this be? This would be $3.50. Next is $4.20. How many cents would this be in total? Yep, this would be 420 cents. Next is measurements. How do you measure objects in using units? For length, you use meters, centimeters. Mass, kilograms and grams. And volume would be in liters. So let's take a look at this question. Now what is the length of the screw? Is it 9 centimeters long or is it 6 centimeters long? Think about it for a while. The screw is actually 6 centimeters long. Now do take note that when you measure something with a ruler, it has to start at the 0 mark. If it does not start at the 0 mark, where it ends and where it starts, you should take note of. So the screw stops at the 9th mark, which is 9 centimeters. However, it starts at the 3rd mark. So that means your calculations should be 9 cm minus 3 cm, which will give you 6. Next is time. In order to know how to do time, you must read the time on the clock, you must know the difference between AM and PM, and know the meaning of hours and minutes. Now AM and PM you should know, which is AM is used for the morning, PM is used for afternoon and evenings. The meaning of H and min is hours and minutes. Now let's focus on reading the time on the clock. There are 3 timings for the clocks over here. Could you try to read all of them? The answers will be shown in a bit. The first one is 1:30 p.m. The second one is 1:45 p.m. And the last one is 3:55 p.m. Now you must know that with every number that passes, it is in increments of 5 minutes. So you must be able to count the number and read the time on the clock. Now I want to focus your attention on the last timing. Now even though the hour hand looks as though it is pointing at 4, it has not passed 4 yet. So do take note of the hour hand as well as the minute hand. If the minute hand is pointing towards the end of the hour, it should already pass the hour that you are reading off. Now as for shapes. Now under shapes, you must be able to recognize 2D as well as 3D shapes and describe and name the different shapes that is shown to you. Now over here is all the 2D shapes that you must know. On the left side, I have written their names as well as shown you pictures of them. and on the right hand side, I have showed you their characteristics. So you can pause and take a read. Now you must be able to know how to describe them. So if I were to cover the right hand side, you should be able to describe the different characteristics for the 2D shapes on the left. Here are the 3D shapes that you must know, and it is the same as what I have mentioned beforehand. You must be able to describe and say the characteristics of the 3D shapes that are shown to you on the left hand side. You can pause and take a read and make sure that you recognize each and every one of the images shown below. We have come to the end of the short presentation. I hope all the topics that I have mentioned are very clear for you and that you know how to do all the questions that I have asked. Thank you and have a nice day.